It's not your job to constantly comment on my appearance.
There it is, Lisa Simpson calling out the unfiltered, unsolicited opinions thrown her way.
I would ask if you've seen the new Hunger Games movie, but that's just like your whole life, so you don't need to.
A pain many of us know all too well. In the Simpsons episode Lisa's Belly, we get a front row seat to the relentless juggernaut that is body shaming. And all because Lisa hears that dreaded word from Marge, chunky. But it's not just Marge, is it? This episode shines a light on how casual offhand remarks hit hard, especially for a kid like Lisa. So, is body shaming just a misunderstood attempt at showing concern? Or is it a low-effort sports society plays to hurt your feelings disguised as humor or helpful advice? The Simpsons hold the answer to that. The episode kicks off with a quintessentially chaotic Simpsons adventure as Homer decides to take the family to Riot Rivers, a nostalgic amusement park from his youth.
Riot Rivers! Riot Rivers! There it is! Turn!
Inspired by real-life places like New Jersey's infamous Action Park, Riot Rivers is presented as a glorious haven of reckless fun, now reduced to a kiddie park.
Quiet, Rivers! They changed the raw to a qua!
Much to his annoyance, everything that were once the glory days of Homer's youth has been turned into boring stuff, much like most of society nowadays.
See, they turned all the super cool rides into baby rides.
But that doesn't stop Homer, though.
Oh, you kids don't know, but this place used to be so bitchin', and the best slide of all was right over there.
Homer, ever the irresponsible dad, takes a detour into absurdity as he decides to engage in some reckless endangerment with Lisa and Bart. They venture into the notorious Devil's Tower, a ride with a rich history of hospitalizations, a statistic Homer sees as a badge of honor rather than a warning. With a comical lack of foresight, he exclaims,
"For today we punch fear in the face and steal death's girlfriend, as we truly live for the first time."
A piece of fatherly wisdom that may not have the best long-term benefits, but is undeniably entertaining in the moment. As the ride sends them plummeting down, Bart experiences a thrilling existential crisis, proclaiming it awesome as he narrowly escapes disaster.
Oh man, I saw my life flash before my eyes. I've had an awesome life.
But the Devil's Tower's lingering influence soon shifts to a medical setting.
I don't feel so good.
The trip quickly takes a turn as we find ourselves at Dr. Hibbert's office. Here, we learn that the ride's infamous history is not just a relic of amusement park lore. It's a breeding ground for bacterial dangers created by a toxic mix of 30-year-old hairspray, hot dog water, opossum dander, and a grab bag of intestinal and skin-based parasites. The solution? A 4-week regimen of steroids for treatment. And the downside of those steroids?
Nothing serious. Maybe a little temporary weight gain.
For Bart, the steroids work in his favor, but for Lisa, everything soon takes a turn for the worst. After she put on a little weight and is getting dressed for school, Marge hits her with the words an insecure daughter does not want to hear.
Someone's getting chunky.
Which is where the topic of body shaming is introduced. So, are casual comments really harmless, or do they hit harder than we think? In the case of Lisa, Marge was just being a playful mother and had no ill intentions with her remark. But that's not usually the case for most of us. In fact, according to one study, 31% of teenagers have felt ashamed about their body image at some point. Another study claimed that it's even near 80%. So it's pretty likely you've felt the same at some point in your life. And these casual comments aren't even the biggest cause of negative body image. It's the media. The media is full of promoting unrealistic ideals about what men and women's body types should look like in order to be considered attractive, which I won't get into as you've already heard that 1,000 times. What I will get into is movies. They've had a big impact on how I viewed myself through high school, and that wasn't in a positive way. I always wore oversized hoodies to school, even on the hottest days of the year, just to cover my body because I was ashamed of it. So what's the movie's role in that? Let's take some popular examples. Gossip Girl, Pretty Little Liars, Glee, and Riverdale are all TV shows that share two large similarities. They are incredibly popular, and the main cast of teenagers is played by adults, sometimes 15 years older. The average age gap disparity in these movies was 8.25 years. Then what happens? Girls start obsessing over Zac Efron, boys start obsessing over Emma Watson. We then start thinking that this is what we're supposed to look like according to the media's latest beauty standards for our age, and get self-conscious. Don't get me wrong, I understand film producers are almost forced to use adults in movies due to labor laws, but it has a lasting impact on the way we view ourselves when we're young. Now, Lisa hasn't been influenced by movies, but she does represent the impact her self-esteem suffers because of a negative body image. After going to school, she starts seeing and hearing the words chunky echoing everywhere.
Chunky chunk chunk.
What is going on with me? I'm going chunky. Ah! I mean crazy!
For Lisa, chunky used to be a chocolate bar, but now it's a wall blocking her path to self-acceptance. In true Simpsons fashion, we get a classic dose of obsessive repetition, where the very word that drives Lisa up the wall is echoed by everyone around her. Chunky becomes the new ha-ha for Nelson and everyone else. Meanwhile, Marge is blissfully ignorant. She notices something is off,
Oh, honey, you seem down in the dumps.
but then adds insult to injury for not understanding her daughter.
I don't know what I was thinking. By not taking you shopping for back-to-school clothes.
After getting to the mall, everything just starts getting worse for Lisa. The clothes that used to fit her, or are supposed to fit her, are way too tight.
Are you positive that's the 8-year-old size?
Oh, super pause. Let's upsize her to a 10 short.
This scene hits close to home. Remember those oversized hoodies I mentioned? Worn out of insecurity, they served as a shield. But here's the kicker: insecurity isn't all bad. You might wonder why. Psychologically, insecurity can be a launching pad. When we feel like we're lacking, it's just our inner self nudging us to accept that we're not perfect. Think about it. Would you berate someone you care about for feeling sad? No. You'd listen and try to understand them. So why not do the same for yourself? There's no crime in saying, yes, I'm feeling insecure about this situation, and that's okay. Insecurity is a normal, temporary feeling that we all experience at some point. What we have to realize is that insecurity is actually an open invitation for learning and advancing. But how do you do that? It's different for everyone, but I'll give you the 2 steps that helped me gradually get less insecure over time. First, accept your feelings. Don't beat yourself up for feeling insecure. It's counterproductive and only distances you from your inner self. Accept it with compassion and just allow yourself to feel something for the moment. According to brain scientists, all it takes is 90 seconds to identify an emotion and allow it to diminish. Don't ignore any emotions. By doing that, you're just bottling them up. Second, allow yourself to learn after confidence has been dropped. Dunning-Kruger effect illustrates this perfectly. Confidence can skyrocket, plummet, and then gradually rise again. Insecurity is just a sign you're progressing. It means you're moving forward even if it doesn't feel like it. Instead of letting that insecurity stop you, use it as motivation to improve. If it's any help, relate it back to Socrates. Falling down is not a failure. Failure comes when you stay where you have fallen. It's a lesson we see Lisa learning later as well, but first, she's still stuck shopping with Marge.
Mom, it's too big.
No, it's not. It's very flattering.
But at that point, Lisa has had enough of it.
It's not your job to constantly comment on my appearance.
Commenting on others' appearance is something we have all done at some point. But why? Well, people are assholes. Simple as that. Even though Marge didn't mean it in any hurtful way, she still hit a sensitive spot. But it wasn't Marge's fault, which we will see later. Unrelated to Marge, other people could do it out of their own insecurity and want to bring others down. Same goes for bullying. There's boatloads of reasons like immaturity or lack of empathy. So what's the solution to body shaming and dealing with it? Well, there's no one-size-fits-all approach. Lisa's feelings are hurt, Marge doesn't realize why, and now Homer is starting to notice.
So, how was the mall?
Apparently, I'm the worst mother in the world for being nice.
Lisa's refusing to talk to Marge, so now Homer goes up to Lisa.
Honey, if something's bothering you, you gotta let it out.
Finally, Lisa's able to admit it was because Marge called her chunky.
Mom called me chunky.
Now Homer realizes Marge made the one mistake no parents should ever make. Acknowledge what their children actually look like. Lisa's feeling defeated, her confidence shaken, but then there's Patty and Selma, her 2 aunts with a unique approach to life's rough edges, who have prepared a song full of blunt truths. The tune is as unapologetically raw as it gets, and yet it's oddly comforting. Patty and Selma may be harsh, but they're honest, unbothered by society's expectations. Their message to Lisa: life isn't about meeting impossible standards, it's about embracing your quirks, imperfections, and everything that makes you, you. For Lisa, this is a much-needed dose of don't sweat it. It's a reminder that not everyone has to look the same, and even the so-called flaws are part of the beauty of being human. While Patty and Selma's song might not be a typical motivational anthem, it speaks to the larger theme in the episode: the difference between body positivity and self-acceptance. Body positivity tells you to love every inch of yourself, while self-acceptance says, hey, it's okay not to love every part. Lisa returns home with these new insights to receive an apology from Marge. Lisa tells her it's okay now that she's spent the afternoon with her aunts. She's basically feeling much better about herself and a lot worse about everyone else. Besides that, she's finally off steroids, meaning just when she came to accept herself again, Marge rubs even more salt in her wounds. But why can't we blame Marge? It all lies in her past. After Marge is suggested to give hypnotherapy a shot, she seems hesitant at first, but they still go to Dr. Sage. As they each close their eyes, they're guided into memories that have long shaped their lives, memories buried beneath everyday actions and comments. Everything is so peaceful in Lisa's head until they see the huge word chunky rooted in the ground. But at this point, Marge realizes how big the damage is she has actually done to Lisa. It's allowed her to see how much power her words have, but now it's time to understand why Marge is making these comments by going into her subconscious. She's transported back to her own childhood where subtle, offhand comments from family and friends chipped away at her self-esteem. She remembers her mother casually mentioning things like,
"But I do think longer hair complements your plain features."
In this moment of clarity, Marge finally realizes that her well-meaning comment about Lisa being chunky wasn't really about Lisa at all. It was the residue of her own past, a reflex she hadn't been conscious of until now. As she comes out of her trance, Marge looks at Lisa with a new understanding. She sees not just her daughter, but someone who's also been bearing the weight of inherited insecurities.
I guess the hurtful things your mother says to you never totally disappear.
Which is true. Generational trauma is like a family gift basket, except instead of chocolates and wine, you get insecurities, weird habits, and that crippling need to impress Aunt Carol at every Thanksgiving. Imagine this. Great-grandma had one bad day back in the 1930s where someone called her a bit plump. Did she brush it off? Oh no. She wrapped it up, stamped fragile on it, and passed it to grandma like a precious heirloom. Grandma carries it all her life, occasionally adding her own touches like, "Don't wear that, people will judge you." Then she hands it to mom, who now avoids carbs like they're radioactive. And finally, mom gifts it to you. "Look, sweetie, it's the family tradition. Self-doubt and the fear of judgment." And so every generation dutifully picks up on this package, adding another layer of self-consciousness like it's some bizarre holiday ornament. And here you are, staring at this gift like, really? But hey, maybe you're the one who finally gets to say, nah, I'm good. Because just once, wouldn't it be nice if family heirlooms were things you actually wanted? Like cash? So, what did we learn from The Simpsons about body shaming, insecurity, and the weird family traditions we didn't ask for? Well, first off, it's that even a single word like chunky can create an echo chamber in your head, bouncing around and amplifying self-doubt. Lisa's journey is a reminder that no matter who says it or how harmless it might seem, these comments often stick. But it's also a wake-up call for parents, friends, and anyone who thinks they're being helpful with their advice. And when Marge's insecurities come to light, we get a crash course on generational trauma, the family gift that keeps on giving. We all have that invisible bag of passed-down worries we never asked for. But maybe, like Lisa, we don't have to carry it forever. Here's what I would do against it. Challenge those old insecurities. You didn't sign up for them, so don't let them take the wheel. When you feel insecure, acknowledge it, don't bury it. It's natural to feel insecure sometimes. It's just your brain asking, can we work on this? Don't let labels define you. If someone calls you chunky, quiet, or even perfect, take it with a grain of salt. People will always have opinions, but you don't have to make them your reality. And finally, break the cycle by setting a new example. Be that person in the family who doesn't treat looks or status as a measure of worth. Model self-acceptance and show that it's okay to be a work in progress.